Welcome back to the Pilot Network Podcast. I'm Matt, co-host of the Pilot Network. Adam's out flying the line today. He couldn't be with us, but I am joined by Marc Himelhoch, author of Cockpit2Cockpit and one of TPN's recurring guests on the podcast and contributors for TPN Qs. And so we wanted to have him on and talk about a topic that we hear about, that we don't necessarily hear about a lot. But we get a lot of pilots who get excited about a CJO. And Marc has some things to think about once you do get that CJO. So Marc, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming back.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you having me on once again.
Oh yeah, it's always good. The last episode was a lot of fun. We always like talking to you. So hopefully Adam can be here next time. But I know he's out. He's busy flying the line. So you wrote an article called "How to Stay Cool When You're in the Pool." So can you explain that?
Sure. This actually came out of a personal situation that happened to a friend of mine, and I've also been in his situation, so I can speak relatively intelligently to this situation, where he got hired by one airline, which was his primary choice, but he didn't have a training date yet, which means he's in the pool. He's got the conditional job offer, the CJO, but he's waiting to start training. So he's in the pool for that airline. In the meantime, he got an opportunity to interview with his second choice. And he told me afterwards that he did not get the CJO from the second choice. And he thought that one of the reasons that happened is that they may have looked on his social media and found that he had the logo of his first choice there as his profile picture because he was so excited to get that CJO from the first choice.
Mm-hmm. Understandably so.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting, right? I mean, we know how hard we work to get these interviews and get these conditional job offers, and to get your first choice is really, exciting, and it's huge, and you want to tell the whole world about it. And social media seems to be the way to do that these days.
Right.
But I wrote this article to talk about a reason why you may not want to jump on social media right away, and some other social media considerations. So let me explain that in a little more detail.
Sure.
I think everybody kind of has their list, their rank order, their dream sheet list of choices of airlines when they apply. Not everybody. I mean, some people only apply to one airline, and they kind of put all their eggs in one basket, and that's fine for them. But it doesn't matter whether the airline you're interviewing with is your first choice, your second choice, your third choice, your fourth choice. There are reasons not to broadcast the information about getting hired out there until you are firmly in training and starting the program. For one thing, a conditional job offer is just that. It's conditional. It doesn't guarantee anything. It can be pulled away at a moment's notice. And that has happened in the past. I'm mainly talking about big catastrophic events like 9/11, mm-hmm. where people had just been hired, and then the economy takes a downturn, and all of a sudden the airline realizes they don't need as many pilots as they thought they did, and they take those conditional job offers away.
Sure.
Or, maybe if you're lucky, they say, well, we're going to furlough you. You still have a job here, but we're indefinitely putting you on hold, and then during that time, you're not getting paid. So, right. Another thing that happens a lot is a pilot gets a conditional job offer. And like I said, they're in the pool, but due to the number of pilots who were ahead of them in the pool and the amount of pilots that airline can put through training at any given time, they may have a lengthy sit. And that's what actually happened to me. I got hired by JetBlue in November, and I didn't start training until May. And they didn't tell me that I would start training in May. They just kind of said, well, they gave me an estimate, and it was somewhere in the spring to summertime. Well, a lot of people can't just sit around waiting to start training that long. They got to put food on the table for their families, right? They may have to, even if that was their number one choice, they may have to take interviews at other airlines who could start them sooner, just to kind of hedge their bets, if you will.
Right, because the training schedules for all the airlines is totally different based on sim availability and instructor availability and all that sort of stuff, right?
Yes, definitely. Just like pilot training in the military, there's a capacity limitation, and it's based on a lot of factors, just like you talked about. For those reasons, what I tell people as far as their social media is, you might want to treat this like a combat deployment, where the squadron calls you into the room and says, "Hey guys, we're deploying," but you can't tell your family and friends where you're going, for OPSEC reasons. We got to just kind of keep this on the down low. You might want to treat the CGO like that, as far as not blowing up your social media with the logo of that airline, because as happened to my friend, and he can't prove this, but he thinks this may be the case.
Sure.
And I believe it. It only makes sense to me that an HR department is going to do a pretty good background check on you, and social media is part of that. And they're going to look at your social media and see who they're hiring, and how does it look if you just interviewed with Delta and your Facebook page flash is American Airlines tail, right?
Right.
Not so good if that's Delta looking at your social media there. So that's one thing to be careful of.
No doubt. What are some good tips that you've run into for social media habits in general when it comes to whether you have a CJO or once you're already flying for the airline? Is it in your first year? Is there anything goes, or are there some considerations that you would recommend?
Yeah. So before I talk about first year, let me talk about when you start the process, when you start sending applications to the airlines, because that's where it really begins. I didn't realize how many of my Facebook pictures had pictures of me with a drink in hand. Mm-hmm. And I, by no means do I consider myself having a drinking problem, but I could see where if somebody went on my Facebook page who didn't know me and looked, they're like, wow, this guy drinks a lot, and so definitely that's something you need to clean up when you send those applications out there. And that was pointed out to me by my wife, who runs a public relations agency. That's the first thing she does for her clients, is clean up their social media.
Right.
And people don't even realize it. It's not something you consciously think about, but a lot of times when we take pictures are at social events, and at social events we may just have a beer in hand.
Sure.
So,
and it's not too often that you go to your own Facebook site, page or something like that either.
Right. And so you don't get to see the total picture that you're creating for other people out there. Mm-hmm. You can, but most people don't. So definitely be conscious of that. And then you talked about, once you get hired, you're still not off the hook. You will sign policies just like you do in the Air Force or in any military service, about the social media policies of that company, that basically say that, hey, if their name is on your social media site in any way, shape, or form associated with you, and the fact that you work for that company, well, you're now liable for everything else you put on your social media site. So you got to be real careful. I've heard of people getting fired over, edgy comments or pictures that they put on there. And I think we all know what we're talking about with edgy. Could be many different things there, but
right.
Anything that you wouldn't say or show to your grandmother, it's a good rule of thumb. You probably don't want to have on there for those reasons.
Right. And this is probably not specific to the airlines. It's just, we talk about it all the time on TPN. Good dudesmanship is an important skill to have. And just kind of being careful what your public persona is probably important.
Yeah, definitely. And so, yeah, just my overall advice, as you're going through this process is, stay cool when you're in the pool. So once you're in that pool, you worked really hard to get that conditional job offer. You don't want to blow it now. So just kind of hold off. And, once that first paycheck clears and you're sure that's where you're staying forever and ever, then by all means, blast it out there and be proud. And you should be proud. You worked hard for it. But if you think that you may change airlines, or if you think that you may have to take interviews at other airlines, then you might just consider holding off on announcing that CJO.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, thanks for sharing those tips, Marc. If anyone has any questions for you or wants to just chat, say hi, say thank you, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, there's a contact us link on the website, which is www.cockpit2cockpit.com, and that's the word cockpit, the number 2, and the word cockpit. They can also email me at Marc with a C .Himelhoch, which is on the cover of the book, at Cockpit2Cockpit.com. And if they even want to call me, I'm not opposed to that. We have our telephone number is 866-440-0222.
That's awesome. Thanks, Marc. And as always, if you want to ask Adam or I any questions, you can get a hold of us at heyguys@thepilotnetwork.org. Visit the website or the Facebook group. Pretty much any way that you want to get a hold of us is good to go. So we also are getting closer and closer to TPNX, so I want to encourage you to consider blocking out some time in October to come and hang out and network with TPN in person. Get to know some people. This is not going to be your suit and tie resume type event. This is going to be 100% jeans and flip-flops kind of event where we can really get to know each other, and hopefully we'll have some heavy hitters there to answer some questions. There will be some beverages, but you can leave those off your Facebook page if that helps. So cool. Well, thanks, Marc. I really appreciate everything you do for the network and your contributions, and we'll hopefully have you on the show again soon.
I look forward to it. Thanks, Matt.